Hey guys, Kinggath here, and welcome to another episode of the Kinggath podcast. Wow, I always screw up my own intro. The Kinggath podcast. Today's guest is the lead on one of the most anticipated Fallout 4 mods ever. The leader of Cascadia, Leon. Welcome, sir.
Hey. How's it going?
It is going very well. It's great to talk to you. It's funny that we've got all these mega teams in the community. There's you guys. There's Miami. We have kind of become one of them. There's Fallout 4 in Vegas, and I've heard that a lot of your other teams, you guys all have a lot of cross pollination, a lot of cross communication. You guys share information and stuff. And then I've always felt like our team is kind of on an island. I don't know any of you guys, so it's awesome to get a chance to talk to you today.
Yeah, likewise.
So is that accurate that you have a fair amount of talk with some of the other, maybe not necessarily directly with like Surveillant or anything, but with you guys have a lot of people between your teams that are crossing over?
Yeah, I believe we have a fair amount. Like, we don't have an exact restriction of if you work on that project, you can't work on this one, or vice versa. Like, it really anyone can work on whatever they choose to work on. I mean, maybe those other projects have different rules. I have no idea, but typically we don't really care.
Right.
Only
And
thing we worry about is like leaks and whatnot, but
sure.
luckily we've never had to deal with that. So,
Yeah, leaks can be a pain. We had one really small one after the first expansion came out, but it ended up being not a big deal. And we tend to keep our stuff like locked down to only a couple people have access to the builds until last minute. So that's the type of leaks I'm really worried about personally, is like somebody handing out all our files, because like if somebody just tells about what we're working on, it's like whatever. We probably would have bragged about that at some point.
yeah, I can't imagine a whole lot of people would be happy. I'm sure everybody who wants the project would be, but at the same time, it's not like what we want to show off. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, and you guys are doing some pretty advanced stuff that I think, if if it gets shown off too early, then that kind of it won't be as impressive, and will kind of ruin the whole razzle dazzle of this big monstrosity you're building. Like you guys are one of the few teams doing new creatures. I don't know that anybody else is tackling that. Does that seem accurate to you?
yep, yep. There are actually quite a fair amount of features that we're trying to get tuned up, and that's why like a lot of people in our community Discord are sometimes curious why we're so type lit, and it's like, yeah, I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to show off everything or anything until it's actually in a status where I feel like it's acceptable to interact with as a player or
Right.
anyone really.
Sure.
Um, Perhaps maybe that's not the best. I don't know, but that's just the way I do things, and it kind of works here and there. Sometimes
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, I think that's kind of how it goes with these. Is where we're not sure about anything in particular. Is like what's the best way to run these? What's the best way to manage the teams? What's the best way to release information to the public? Because you always gotta walk that balance of, you want to keep some surprises for people to discover in the game, because that's one of the most fun parts of playing a Bethesda game. But you also have to reveal enough to inspire people to come join your team, because we're dealing with all volunteers, which was probably another reason why you can't really set rules about people working on other teams, because it's like you're kind of at the mercy of who's available to do what with the volunteer status of everything.
Oh boy, yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually frustrating for some members of the team because it's like we should show off this, and it's like I don't think so. Let's give it a few more months, make sure it's worked up and actually tuned up right, and then maybe. But uh, it I understand the frustration, but
Yeah.
I think it's better to have like a representative piece of what you're showing off, like what you can come to expect in the game.
Sure.
I mean that's why I've been pretty quiet on the whole creature thing, because there is still a bunch of stuff I have to reverse engineer and figure out. But I mean that's definitely something that's for sure in. Like, we have Wanamingos that walk around kind of. I have no idea what they're doing half the time, but yeah.
I think I saw that you guys live streamed that at one point, didn't you? I believe I saw. I saw that you guys showed it off at some point on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, I probably streamed it. Oh boy, my streams are pretty scuffed.
I do. I just remember a moment where when it got into game, it like went completely wonk for a moment, and they're like, "Nope, nope, eggs out of there. Go back in the creation kit. Looks better in there."
Yeah, I think I know exactly what you're talking about. The animations played correctly in the creation kit, and in game it just, oh man,
Yeah, like the thing turned it like
horrific.
collapsed in on itself, and like its legs were like into the body, which was pretty funny looking. But it's from what I understand, it's a pretty big challenge to get even the stuff working in the creation kit so far. So I imagine you've probably gotten a lot farther since then. But has that been something that you've personally been adamant about tackling, about making sure that those get looking good and work?
Yep, and it also comes down to the right animator and whatnot because it's pretty tough because the tools I have currently, I haven't even released them to the team really yet. Anything that gets done when it comes to animations and like for example, the character creation in Fallout 4, that uses some really weird hard-coded thing
Okay.
where I'm trying to think how I could explain how it's done, but essentially there it forces two actors and it has to play out the way that it wants it to. And basically for our character creation, I had to sort of figure out how it worked and then created a new behavior system which is controls all the animations. And we have a new character creation. I don't know. Like it's actually there's quite a lot of different things that we can do now that we have the tools to make creatures. We can do custom animations completely. We could do new subgraphs or more logic that drives the animations and whatnot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now I saw. I remember the first time I heard you guys were doing new creatures was when. Wait, and this was way back. This was before I released any mods. Even I used to hang out in the. Well, maybe I probably had one mod because I was hanging out in the Nexus mod authors channel, and some of the guys on your team were showing off centaurs. Is that something that's still happening?
Uh, I'm I'm not aware. I was not a part
Yeah,
of
this
that
was
one.
long ago. This would have been like 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, I think that
Weirdly
was
enough.
and maybe it was something that somebody was just experimenting with on the team at the time, and hopefully, if that work got done, it gets passed off to the Fallout 3 or the Capital Wasteland. I think that's what they're calling it, the Fallout 3 remake in Fallout 4, because those things were creepy as hell, and it was really cool to see somebody had put them in Fallout 4.
Yeah.
So you've got Wanamingos. I don't know what that is. That something from like old school Fallout, right? It rings a
Yeah,
bell, but
that
yeah.
yeah, that's a character. It almost looks like Alien, like Alien versus Predator, like
Right, right.
alien looking thing.
Yeah.
Looks like a weird abomination baby version of it. And well, I think it was like pitch black in the older Fallouts. I can't remember. I'm actually gonna go Google and make sure I'm
Yeah, I figure if it's something from an older game, you guys would do your homework. But I also think that Bethesda's kind of opened the door for creating variations of creatures and still feeling like you're remaining lore friendly and stuff. So even if you were to create like a glowing version, or if you went off color with the skin, and that's you also have the benefit of you're working on an area that hasn't been explored in most of Fallout lore. Like I bet for the hardcore lore nerds, there's probably some bits that have been mentioned somewhere, and you'll have somebody who calls you out. But I think you guys have a lot more freedom working in that that northwest, that Pacific Northwest area.
well yeah, like it's pretty nice. The writers have pretty much free reign to do whatever they want because it's not really a location that's been explored before. I mean, closest is older Fallout games, but nothing concrete. So we have all this freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, or however that saying goes from that one E3 announcement. Or
Oh
maybe
right.
I'm just paraphrasing that horrifically, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. But in any case, it's like they have free reign. Obviously, we don't want to like break lore or seem unrealistic to like the Fallout franchise as a whole. So we
Right.
have people. We have what I would call official fact checkers.
Okay. So,
They they make sure everything's all good, but when it gets released, I'm sure people will let us know what we fucked up. So yeah,
yeah, there's always arguments among it too, like about what people think is lore friendly and not. So like I recently had a discussion with Gambit about whether the modern firearms were lore friendly, and to me they don't feel lore friendly, but in reality they technically are. If you go look back at the older Fallout games, even just New Vegas, and so I was like, all right, yeah, I guess you got me there. And so I think there's kind of a division there too about what constitutes lore friendly. So you're never going to satisfy everybody, but I think that anything you guys do that's even on the fence, you can always just claim, well, it's part of this new area. Like you can almost lure it away in your own lore. So that's a nice benefit.
yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, we have a lot of freedom to do some funky stuff, but at the end of the day, we're still trying to keep to, I guess, the Fallout theme.
Right.
Trying to
Sure.
succeeding. I don't know. We're doing it.
You're doing it indeed. So is the that area up there, the Pacific Northwest area you chose, which I guess I don't know which section. Are you guys like a border of Canada and Washington? Is it doing like what part of the area is that going to be? Because the Canadian perspective seems like it could be interesting. Because I know technically Cascadia, like IRL, is like Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, I believe. So you have quite a range to pick from.
Yeah, well, I don't know geography so well of the area myself.
Okay.
So I can't give you like specifics, but we have like areas like Redmond, I believe. We have the downtown Seattle, of course.
Okay.
Um I'm trying to think where our middle point of the map would be. Maybe that's what location is that? Oh, I know. I remember. So
Okay.
like the very middle of our map, basically, we have Kent.
Okay.
So
I'm super unfamiliar with Washington, so I can't speak to this at all. But hopefully,
well, there we
anybody who's
go.
from the area
There we go.
can say what you. I was just curious if you involved Canada. I imagine you might in the story at least, just because like that's something that doesn't seem to get touched on much. I know it gets annexed. I think in the story it gets annexed by the United States, but I would still think there would be some Canadian pride left and some Canadian citizens, maybe some Canadian ghouls. I'm just curious if you guys touch on that at all.
Our world space is pretty big, but we don't go that far to
Okay.
Canada. But we definitely we have a faction called the Red Leafs, which are
Nice.
yeah, which are this post-war group from Canada and whatnot.
Sure.
That we've changed the way the overline stories worked so many times. It's like, well, not so many times. I apologize. Like we've changed it a few times just because we didn't feel like it worked correctly.
Sure.
So it's like I have a few different versions of them in my head, and I'm not sure which one is 100%. So
Yeah.
that's why I typically don't like getting into specifics because when it comes to specifics, I'm pretty screwed. like,
I know how you feel because like what we've started getting into quest stuff and what we're finding is a lot of times things read really great on paper, and then when you stick them in the game and put the player in the situation, it's like, okay, this is kind of awkward, or the pacing's wrong, or you get to a pivotal moment and you're like, this would have played a lot better if we had done this. So then you got to go back and rewrite because you're trying to you get one shot for that great first impression with people, and so you don't want to blow it. So I can understand why you would have multiple rewrites and how that would all get jumbled in your head about what's actually in your mod and what's not.
yeah, like, well, when it comes to the story specifically, that's a pretty big problem. Besides my geography, because you know I should probably know this. I just don't offhand.
Now,
But
what is your primary? So, like, I think all of us who are running these teams tend to have some specialty that we focus on most of our personal effort on. What is yours on the team? What do you do?
I mostly stick to the programming, the reverse engineering aspects of it. So actually I do a lot of the scripting too, like with Papyrus, like the actual scripting system used in Fallout 4,
Sure.
and doing a lot of the sort of in between work of putting assets into the game and making sure they actually work in the game.
Sure. So just like general CK work and morph things around.
Everything and nothing some days.
So you're not personally doing any of the animation. You're just reverse engineering the animation system and creating the tools that are needed by your animation team.
Yes.
Very interesting. I don't know if I would even. Do you have any background in animation or anything? Because that stuff. Every time I look at that type of
No.
thing, I get I'll say
Nope.
I'm like no idea what I'm looking at here. Because I've decompiled some of the like HKX files trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and I can understand some of it. It's like you can get it into an XML format, and that makes sense to me. But so much of it is just like gibberish that I don't know what I'm supposed to do with it.
I had no idea what a Euler's formula was before I even started looking at it. So,
And
you
you're
know,
slowly becoming a master.
I'll get back to you on that one.
I mean, it's from what I've seen, just like looking at the video you showed of in the CK, like I'm impressed you were able to get all that working because it's pretty daunting to even attack that. Like I think most people I've asked about animation stuff, they're just like, yeah, not really much we can do there. Like when people have solved the weapon animations, and thankfully we've long since solved the third person animations, which makes it so that we can have NPCs using the weapons and whatnot. But beyond that, there's not a whole lot of custom animation going on and in Fallout 4 right now. So it's very very cool to see that you're tackling that nasty project.
Oh yeah, I mean, hell, trying to get any information about it was a nightmare. I even had to reach out to Airstarn of oh my god, I don't know anything today. What the fuck? I don't remember.
Good day for mind blanks, huh?
Um, no, it's the one that puts Morrowind into Skyrim. I don't play those games. I don't.
Skywind? Are you talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I take it.
Yeah.
Is he the one who figured out how to get the? And now I can't think of the name. Those awesome looking creatures, with the big tentacle legs from Morrowind.
Yes,
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they are either because
Everybody
but
like these guys are Bethesda fans.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty bad that way. I don't remember a whole lot. But yeah, he did a lot of. I don't know if he solely did it or how that works, but he helped me out with a few things that I didn't understand. But the rest,
Sure.
it's like I basically had to figure out on my own. I had to search for any documentation anywhere out there, and pretty much close to really nothing. I even asked the folks over at I don't what that basically they make like porn models or something.
Oh, at Lovers Lab.
That's it. That's
Yes.
it. Yeah, I tried to look there. There was a few bits of information, but all in all, it's like everything is scattered, and you really don't know what you're looking for half the time. Hell, I still don't.
As much as a lot of people look down on the porn type mods, they that squad figures out more about these games than most of us do because they are motivated. Like they figure out some like I'm pretty sure the animators kit only exists because somebody really wanted to see their character bang in Fallout 4. Like I think
I'm not gonna lie, they're dedicated. That's for sure. I don't mind it. Like hell, that makes my life a little bit easier. But hey, I don't know.
Whoa, all sorts of crackling there. You all right? Oh, think we lost him.
Sorry about that. My internet died completely.
It sounded like you got in a fight with somebody. Like all of a sudden here, and then heard somebody talk, and then you went out.
Yeah, it's all good.
So speaking of the over the top violence, let's change gears here. How are you guys handling the humor of Fallout 4? Like, is that something you guys are trying to still capture in your quests and side quests and stuff?
Oh, definitely yes.
Oh, fantastic.
I mean, some people think of Fallout as just this dreary, dark mess, but of course, there's always those moments of dark humor and whatnot, and we've made sure to sneak those in there, and sometimes they're just right out in your face. But
Yeah.
Nothing too obvious. Like we do have Wild Wasteland, so we can do some even more outrageous things, but
Oh, awesome.
nothing like extremely third. What's what's that word?
Fourth wall breaking.
Fourth wall, not third wall. I was thinking
No,
that like
I knew
third wall
exactly what you were
doesn't
getting
doesn't
at.
like nothing totally fourth wall breaking
Sure.
or like I've seen some other projects that have done that, and it's just like, oh boy, I I'm making sure that we avoid that at all costs. And
Yeah, we
luckily, everyone seems to be in agreement with that. So
it's a tough one. Like the other one that we have struggled with, and I know we've gone a little more overt than I would like, is pop culture references. It tends to seem that like Bethesda's real subtle with them. Like if you find pop culture references, they're very rarely on the nose. Unlike something like Blizzard, where Blizzard's just like blatant about it and they just embrace it, but like Bethesda seems to be a little more subtle, and that's kind of where like finding that line is tough. And I know I've ruined it a couple of times. Like we have a character named Q that we had voiced by a John Cleese impersonator, and it's like, all right, well that we just like went right over the line with that one.
yeah, it's so easy. Like that's such a thin line to like cross, becoming from like it's so easy to cross that line of okay, that really doesn't fit, and it's so hard for us to judge sometimes too because we're obviously not Bethesda. We don't have anyone working with us, so we don't really we have to sort of like just shoot in the air and hope that we hit the quality level that people would come to expect.
Right.
And typically that's pretty high most of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like you always strive to make sure like okay, nobody's going to complain about this. I swear. I
Yeah.
don't know, but yeah.
I think a lot of times though, with especially with like mega mods like what you're doing, I think people are just so ecstatic to have a new world space to play in and a whole new quest line to approach and to like, because it's so damn exciting to roll into a new Fallout game, and that's kind of what you get. I mean, you guys are effectively doing something the size of a Fallout game. And like, so I think you're going to get a ton of leeway because you're doing something new. People are excited about that. You're giving people an experience for free, and like people recognize you guys are also a mod team, so this is a bunch of volunteers. So I think like you're gonna get a lot less. I guess you're gonna make a lot less offended people out of any mistakes you make in that regard than something like Bethesda would, because Bethesda is always living up to the fanboys of the Obsidian version of Fallout, and so like they're always going to be up for a lot harsher criticism because they kind of, to a lot of people, they like stole the baby of Obsidian, of the original creators, and so I think they get held to a lot higher standard. They better get held to a lot higher standards than we all do making mods.
Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, maybe I have this unrealistic expectation of the quality level that I want to hit.
Mm-hmm.
It, it's maybe perhaps that's like my own thing, but we definitely aim to deliver an actual experience of with quality that you come to expect with if you were just seeing, I don't know, Fallout 5 or
Sure.
something come out. And I mean, some would argue maybe not Fallout 76, but like Fallout 76.
Right. Or I see. I would say something more like you guys are making the equivalent of the New Vegas for Fallout 3. You're making something in the same engine, but a whole different world space and story.
I don't know about that. I mean, the answer I typically give is it's like this weird hybrid of Fallout 3 and New Vegas, where we have the world space that's genuinely interesting to explore with all the story elements and RPG building that New Vegas offers.
Mm-hmm.
It and then bundling up into this one package. That's how I describe it, but I mean,
Well,
time will tell on that one.
I guess I was getting at the fact that, like you said, some people, a lot of people are unhappy with 76. A lot of people are happy with it, but that it came to mixed reception. Unlike something like New Vegas, which is pretty highly regarded, at least in hindsight. I don't know how well it was received initially. I actually didn't play it right away when it came out. I came to it a couple years after it came out, and I think most people though revere that game and look at it as one of the great entries, whereas 76 is pretty split down the middle as far as there's a lot of people who just hate it, and then there's a good number of people who like it. But or unless you were referring to more like 76 in the sense of adding a lot of new features, is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I suppose I was just thinking like, oh, it's a new Fallout game. I mean,
Right.
it has everything that Fallout 4 did. It's a new world. I don't know, you know. Obviously, without the world building and the RPG elements you sort of came to expect with Fallout 4, but it's a Fallout game.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely. I think a lot of people have that critique of Fallout 4 is that it lacked a lot of the role playing, and part of that being that your character's voiced, which kind of takes you out of it a little bit, because no matter what you choose to say, you don't anything you might envision in your head of how your character is saying it is just out the window because you've got somebody adding their own voice and inflection to it. Not to mention the backstory and the fact that you're pigeonholed into chasing your son, and that's reflected in a lot of the dialogue. So like that was one of the criticisms, but I think even beyond that, you just don't have a lot of choice in the way you complete quests in Fallout 4. Like there's a handful where you can talk your way out of them, but most of the time it's either you shoot everybody in the face or you speech check your way past, and like there's not a ton of role playing beyond that in Fallout 4. At least that's what a lot of people would argue. I don't know. I'm still trying to come to a conclusion on whether I think that or not in my current playthrough.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, it's just different. Like it's I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad or anything. It's just very different.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really all I can say about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously love Fallout 4. I'm obsessed with the game, or I wouldn't be modding it for 3 years running now. So I love it in its own right. But I do feel the fact that there were a lack. I know that the mission choices and the way you could do them out, especially in New Vegas, were way more intricate than what you can do in Fallout 4. Now, are you guys modeling because you're using the full dialogue interface, right? So you have a non-voiced player character, and you've broken free of the 4 options, so you guys can get kind of go nuts with your script.
Yep. We have the oh man, this is so bad. I can't remember the name right now offhand. But yeah, we can basically have less than 4 dialogue options, or as many as like something ridiculous like 20. I don't know if the engine can handle it, but it is a choice.
Right. Way more than 4, so you can kind of build into that. And
Yep. We definitely do at very many moments. Actually, there's I don't know if we even. I lost my train of thought. Forget that. Scratch that. Don't pretend you never even heard me.
So anyway, but you're taking advantage of that, so you don't have the voice protection, so you're going to have more opportunities to explore the role playing idea when you're designing your stuff. So are you guys taking advantage of that in the sense of giving players more options that will reflect different play styles and whatnot?
Yes and no.
Okay.
That this was actually like a tough call to make. There was a bit of heated debate about this, but the idea is we do have, because if you think about it, Fallout 4 really didn't have those speech checks, or they did, but they're very, they weren't the same as Fallout 3 or New Vegas's, where you had different conditions for the checks, whereas in Fallout 4, it's just straight up charisma.
Right. Yeah, it's like charisma for more caps is basically what it all comes
down
to.
So while we do have perks that do change the way that dialogue is answered, it's not as wide as Fallout New Vegas or 3, but the only reason that is because it feels like that if you have too many options, then when you get that specific perk, you don't really have much reward outside of that, that specific couple bits of dialogue, which is okay, but at the same time, we could pick up like a handful, and then we could do more with those.
Okay.
And so that's what we've opted up into doing.
I'd also say, so like we have gone a similar route in our logic for avoiding a ton of that is that in order to do it right and to where it feels well, you essentially each time you decide to do it, if you're going to do it well, you have to double your work. So you have to do a whole new series of branching dialogue and options for the player to complete the quest. And it's like just for the sake of like the scope of our workload, and you know the fact we're all volunteers and we want to get this stuff actually completed. We don't want to end up in development hell forever. Is that the linear path, the mostly linear path, just allows us to do something higher quality and actually complete it, as opposed to, you know, something as large as New Vegas with a huge branching storyline. You know, every time you do something sophisticated, you essentially that whole if you're going to follow that path, you've just doubled your workload from there on, from that point on.
I'm not sure how to answer that one. It's more or less like it doesn't have much of an impact, or it kind of does.
Okay.
Oh man,
I know you don't want to give away too much of what you got going. I was just curious what your thoughts on all that were, like as far as you know, do you focus in on a lot of player choice, or are you, especially because you have access to all this new dialogue, or are you using it more for extra exposition? Like what is the advantage for you to use?
We definitely have it set up so that it's more open ended.
Okay.
And I guess I'll leave it at that. Like it's you can pretty much choose to who you want to hang around with, essentially.
Okay, fair enough. Because that's definitely going to be a nice change of pace, I think, is to be able to play without the voiced protagonist. Like and I know there's mod that does that, and a lot of people like that. I've just personally embraced the voiced protagonist for ours, and it's definitely been a writing challenge and sometimes writing nightmare. But I think it'll be really interesting to play through a mod of the scope you guys are doing and go back to the old school way without your character talking.
Yeah, and with that actually comes to what I was saying earlier of our game being like this mishmash of Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Obviously it's a mishmash of Fallout 4, New Vegas, and 3, where we have the beefed up combat mechanics, like actually you feel like you're playing a shooter,
right,
rather than feeling like you're playing this weird slideshow thing that you can sort of move your camera around in. Yeah, it all bundles up together and feels really good to play.
That's awesome. So you had mentioned you didn't want to have people picking perks that would like only have a few points in dialogue. Does that mean that you guys are doing a lot of new stuff in the perks department?
There's a lot of experimentation going on. There's this one idea I haven't toyed with, and obviously this is like an extreme example.
Okay.
But having
should we preface this and say to anyone listening, all of this is subject to change. These are just ideas. This whole conversation could go out the window, and everything you hear here could turn out to be bullshit.
yeah. There you go. He said it.
Okay.
Chances are this isn't going to be one of those things. If it is, very different. But the idea I was toying with was when you create your character and you deal with your traits and whatnot, one of the traits as an option would be something that would basically force you into playing a melee weapons playstyle. So if you really don't care about ranged weapons whatsoever, you could pick this trait that would give you a massive detriment to using guns. So maybe it's like like something ridiculous, like a 90% reduction in firearm damage.
Oh, wow.
Grenades, and then you have a huge boost in melee damage, maybe a little bit tankier. I don't know, like just bigger changes like that when it comes to traits.
Sure.
Because I don't know how game changing the ones in Fallout New Vegas were, and I always felt a little bit, maybe not disappointed, but a little bit. I feel like they could have packed a bigger punch in some ways.
Yeah, they were definitely more gimmicky, but some of them had a really strong impact in the early game, and then over time, because you get so super powered, they were pretty irrelevant. So you want to go? You're thinking you guys want to go more big and bold, so that it has a strong impact on how your character plays.
Well, I'd like it to more or less be playstyle defining rather than just, okay, I get this minor bonus and this minor negative. Make it so like you have to build your character around the choice you made. And I mean, obviously, somebody could pick none of them, and that's totally acceptable as well.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the
But
cool
yeah,
systems about the original Fallout games, is that the stuff like the traits were just kind of an optional thing, so you could flesh out your character more, but they weren't forced on you.
yep. That's definitely how we're rolling this time around.
So are you sticking with the existing Fallout 4 perks, or are you guys doing a whole new perk chart, or are you going away from the chart system altogether? Like, are you going back to old school Fallout style, like the skill points and perks?
Yep, we're going back to the old system where basically you need a certain amount of skill level and perk or special level, and then you can pick perks depending on whatever points you've allocated into however. And yeah, the chart's gone. That thing's dead.
I think a lot of people will be happy to hear that. I liked the perk chart system as a nice change of pace, but I do have way fonder memories of the old system of the skills and perks, especially because it's overwhelming to look at that perk chart sometimes. Like if I'm starting a new character and I've got this whole thing in front of me, I'm just like, I don't even know where to go. And then the fact that I can pump in my specials and get them unlocked, whereas the old and like it might be as simple as that for me, like a mental game thing of the old system, you pick your skill points and then you see your perks after the fact, and they would just show you the ones that are available. It didn't just show you, and maybe they changed that with New Vegas or 3, but I don't remember having to look through the gigantic list of all the perks and trying to plan it all out. It was more organic, so you would just kind of build your character as you went.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't mind the perk chart system in itself, but at the same time, when it comes and dealing with it, I get like PTSD. I swear, like trying to deal with anything relating to perks and that stupid system. My God, that was the biggest pain for a long time. I mean, I don't remember exactly when mods sort of came out to bring back the old system, but I would say in the past year or two, I think.
Yeah, where we got the whole UI, like Bianca did that overhaul of the UI system and broke free of it.
Yeah, I mean, damn, and you really couldn't add any perks or any perk options without it being like this sort of scuffed looking typical choice menu.
Right.
Trying to think where that shows up in Fallout 4. I really can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're talking about, for example, at the beginning of the game, you pick up that book, the special book, and then you get just the choice of
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, where it looks kind of wonky. Like it doesn't look like, I hate that we have to use those all the time, as one of the only options to give the player interaction is those little menus, because they just seem so cheap. Like they don't feel good.
Yeah, it feels like it feels really bad to script because it doesn't give the presentation that you want.
Right.
And it's so hard to do anything UI wise. Like a lot of it has to come down to making sure that it works with, or sorry, their script extender functions for it to work and whatnot. And
Right.
like I said, all that stuff only came out in like the past year or two. And
But you guys are embracing it. Are you going with, are you mirroring the old stuff as best you can, or did you come up with a whole new thing? Because one of the things, again, you're uncapped because you're essentially creating like a, your side game almost. Are you taking on and building up the perks people expect, like all the old classics, or are you doing all new? Are you doing a mix?
we're doing a complete mix. So a lot of old ones will return. Some of the ones from Fallout 4 might go away. We'll also have like a slew of our own. There'll be definitely new things to see and old ones to see. I mean,
That's awesome.
I can't say ones like oh man, what
Well, like we're gonna have bloody mess, right?
imperialistic?
Because that's my favorite perk of
Oh
all
yeah, of
time.
course. That one's totally coming back.
Oh, fantastic! That's all I care about. But I mean, having this, I think that's going to be awesome. Skill system, some old perks, some new perks. It'll be a lot of fun to explore the leveling then too. Because that's always one of the, I mean, that's always one of the most fun parts, I think, about a new Fallout game or a new Elder Scrolls game is learning how the new leveling system works. So you guys, even though you're going back to the old school method, it's going to feel new and fresh because you guys are throwing in some new perks and probably some new traits from the sound of it.
Yep. Yep.
Well, that's fantastic. What are you guys doing as far as is your world uh, basically inspiring some of these new traits and stuff or new perks? Like, are there things that are happening in your game world or mechanics that are happening that are going to be made easier or only make like maybe the perks only make sense because of the way your world is set up?
There's one feature that'll definitely do that. I that's all I can really say. That
Right,
this
right,
isn't
yeah.
something I've actually seen in Fallout 4 yet, so that it'll come as a surprise, hopefully.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's this. I know that I knew this conversation was always going to run into some walls of like, this isn't finalized, or I don't want to talk on that, because it's a tough line on that to know what to reveal and what not to reveal. But I think you set up pretty clear lines there of if it's ready and we know it's going to go in, I'll talk about it. Otherwise,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So what?
It's all good.
Right on. So what is something that you've done in Cascadia that you know is going in that you're willing to talk about that you are like super hyped up about and you can't wait till we get to see it?
The one thing I'm super hyped up about, I really I was gonna make a joke saying talking about the thing that I couldn't talk about. Fuck it. The world space in general, it's just amazing to walk through bits and parts of it that are actually complete. I mean, it's so surreal to sometimes look back and just walk through the world and oh yeah, we're actually making this. It's just insane. Like it almost like it does feel up to par with the level of world design and whatnot that Bethesda has
Oh, that's awesome.
with their games. It's actually extraordinary what our level designers are doing.
Now what I don't know if you guys have announced this or not, but what is your scale? Because I know everybody gets all excited about like, oh, it's 5 times the size of this. I think that's nonsense. I think Bethesda's got it right that the map size they did for like Skyrim and Fallout 4 is a good size. Because if you go too much bigger, then for a lot of players who don't have unlimited time to game, it actually starts to get boring. What size have you guys decided on for Cascadia?
So the size I would imagine is about almost twice as big. And that's also we're cutting down a little bit so like not every area you walk into is like this desolate nothing is there.
Okay.
Of course there are lulls in between towns and whatnot, but it's definitely a lot bigger than Fallout 4, but nothing like 5 times or like 30 times
Right,
that or anything like that.
right. Now, is it have you guys gotten to the point where you're fleshing it out, like where you're doing? Because I've heard Bethesda devs talk about one of the things they do is they'll have their quest designers, the guys doing side quests, will just like walk into the game and just start walking in one direction, and then like every so many minutes, if they don't find some sort of encounter, then they're like, all right, the spot needs one. Are you guys going to be doing something like that, or have you started doing something like that to you flesh out all those side areas and everything?
That's something that we're going to be exploring in the upcoming months.
Okay.
We're going to try and figure that process out to make sure like we don't have too much content or sorry, not too little content in between areas. Like
Right.
well, one of the things I was thinking of as a solution was each town is sort of like a mini quest hub type deal. So you basically get a bunch of your interesting side quests from each location, and you sort of you're walking around this town a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. It's an idea.
Sure. Oh, I mean, I think that's a trope a lot of modern games follow that seems to work well because I think it's if people have to bounce too far all over the map, it can get irritating, especially if they're playing survival. To be like, all right, I just came from the glowing sea, came back and turned it in. Now he wants me to go back down to Warwick. It's like, come on, man, like that can get really obnoxious. So I think doing the little quest hubs is probably a benefit, especially to survival players.
Well, about that, I this is something that I'm like 99% certain on,
Okay.
or at the very least, I want it in the game bad.
Okay.
I don't care what anyone else says. I want to disable fast travel. I want
Oh.
that gone. And yeah, and there will no fast travel, and we'll obviously solve the issue of having to go from like north of the map all the way south and whatnot, because that's pretty outrageous with actual proper pacing of quest lines and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, maybe there's like this one side quest that'll take you all around town, and maybe you'll get something good out of it, or maybe not.
So are you thinking some sort of alternate travel system to replace it, like something more immersive, or you want player hoofing it from every point to every other point?
Now we're talking about the unannounced
Okay,
features bit
okay.
again.
I'm
There
just
we go.
because I had this conversation with C Dante recently about like what to do about the fast travel problem, because I love the idea of hoofing it everywhere because it feels more immersive. But personally, I have so little time to game. It's funny. I realized recently that when I became a heavy mod developer, I became a casual gamer, and so like I have so little time to play that I don't want to spend it all walking from point A to point B. But at the same time, some of the best moments in Fallout happen when you're walking, as opposed to just fast traveling around.
Yeah, it's really quite like people don't really. I never really even thought about it until I played Survival in Fallout 4. How much exploration really adds to the game, rather than just having to have the fast travel as an option.
Mm-hmm.
When you remove that option, it actually provides a lot of different play styles and whatnot. I mean, well, maybe not necessarily play styles, but it alters the way that you play quite fundamentally. It it's quite enjoyable. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd agree. I would agree with that. Again, like I said, the only objection I have to it is just my lack of time. Is that if then any of those quests that are sending you bouncing back and forth would become more noticeable and more obnoxious. So I think if you go in with that in mind, of like we don't want to encourage fast travel, like we don't want people to miss fast travel. We want them to enjoy the game at the pace that happens when you don't have it. And then if you have that in mind when you're designing your quests, you probably will end up designing stuff that will just naturally be enjoyable in that frame.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously, we'll have to go back and check to make sure that you're not going from north to south and all sorts of ridiculous lengths. But yeah, it'll definitely feel better once people actually hop in and try it out.
Yeah. So now you've mentioned that when you go explore some of the places that it feels surreal, it feels awesome. Are you guys at the point where you've got some of your either side quests or main quest, or actually what order are you doing it in? Are you guys doing like let's get our main quest all locked down and then we'll worry about fleshing out side quest content? Or are you doing a mix?
We have a priority on the main quest. I believe that we're pretty much done. There are a few bits here and there that need to get figured out, but a lot of our development is making sure that the main story makes sense and it's enjoyable to play through and read through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when it comes to side quests, it's pretty funny. I used to tell my team all the time for the longest time, I don't care what anyone says, but if I hear the word companion, I'm gonna fucking blow my head off. Like honestly, I can't hear that word anywhere until everything else is done when it comes to the main quest and whatnot.
Sure.
Make sure that we have that all figured out. So that's been a very huge priority to make sure that our groundwork is laid out, and then we could sort of fill the areas in between and whatnot.
Right. No, that makes sense. Especially because you want to make sure that it would be a lot easier to avoid having all of your side content overlap the important locations if you lay out your whole main quest, you know everywhere it's touching, and then everybody on the team is aware of that, and it's like, all right, we need just this other area. We need you guys to focus on these other areas. Stay away from like we've got this covered with all of our main quest content.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's almost better to leave companions till the end. I mean, that way you have the different sort of style of thinking of different cities and towns and whatnot. And I mean, if you take a look at that one bunker town in Fallout 4, or not bunker town, it's the one that looks completely normal, and then it's all about they're hunting scents down or something.
Are you talking about Bunker Hill?
Is no, that's the trading one, I think.
Yeah, that's the
That's
trading
the
one. Yeah, you said bunker, so I was trying to think of what it would be.
Yeah, I was thinking bunker. It's the one where you go into like a sewer pipe, and then you find out that they're basically doing testing on people to make sure that they're
Oh,
not synths or
Covenant. Yeah, yeah,
that's it,
yeah.
Covenant. Yeah, like you have like the different styles of thinking, different
Right.
attitudes towards different individuals and whatnot. It's better that we have all of that nailed down for locations and whatnot. That way, when the writers finally get to tackle companions,
Mm-hmm.
then we have that firm grasp of, okay, this is what the world has to offer, and here's what they can actually interact with, rather than just a bunch of guesswork, and it's more or less straight up their personality.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it feel a little bit more, I guess, alive. I guess I'm not sure.
Well, that's actually, so when I was talking about side quests, I was talking about like things unrelated to the main story, not even companions. But your point is interesting because I think one of the big criticisms of Fallout 4 that comes up is you're kind of pigeonholed down certain paths, and one of those things that's locked into those paths are the companions. Like you can't complete the main quest without getting involved with like Piper and Nick and stuff, and that that could. That severely limits role playing potential, and so by doing the companions after the fact, you guys kind of avoid that. You would make it so that people can kind of do the main quest however they want. They probably, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but from the way you're describing it, they would likely be able, just by the nature of the way you're designing this, they'd probably be able to avoid all companions altogether if they want to just be totally solo and make it through your main quest.
That's how it is, and if that's changed, I'm gonna go yell at somebody or give them a very firm talking to, because that's yes, that's supposed to be how it works, where you don't even have to deal with the companion if you don't want to.
That's awesome. Because I personally find myself, I love the companions, but I generally want to I want to play with them one time, and then after that, I just want to stick to the ones that I enjoy and ignore the rest of them. But something like Fallout 4, almost every, if not all of them, I think maybe Strong is the only one you can dodge. I think the rest of them, you stumble upon them all as part of the main quest. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. Somebody can call me out. But I vaguely remember it being that you're kind of forced down the path of running into all of them.
I can't remember. I know you're forced to deal with Nick Valentine because you had to go into that unfinished vault or whatever, Vault
Right.
114, and then rescue him. And then there's Piper. Where's there Piper? I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
because
Dogmeat.
Piper's
No,
at. You have to get Piper at to get into Diamond City, which is required.
Right. And then Dogmeat, I think, to figure out the cigar smell, I believe, or maybe you didn't need him.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
not
Yeah, I'm not
100% sure on that.
I've never not wanted dog meat, so it's like I've never even explored that. But I should do that. That would be interesting to find out what happens if you just dodge dog meat forever.
Yeah, and also it's kind of scary when you think about stuff like that. There's so many things, because it's such an open world game. You can have so many mistakes where it's just like, oh shit, I didn't think anybody would do that.
Oh yeah,
Well,
yeah, for sure. Oh, you guys, I'm sure that's going to be probably the longest part of your dev cycle, and is letting your first early testers in there to play through it all, and then realizing how many ways they find to break everything, and be like, oh, you didn't think of this, did you?
well, I figured out like several times today how to break our character creation system, or like the start of the game.
Mm-hmm.
But like, oh man, there's a lot that we all have to comb through.
Yeah.
Make sure it works 100%.
Some of it I'm on the fence about whether it's like, there are certain things where if the player can break them through doing something that's completely again, like where they have to force it. Like they can kind of hack their way through it. Like there are certain things in some settlements where players can break the system if they want to, but it's like, well, then that's their choice. They're choosing to break it. They're choosing to ruin their own experience. What I hate is when it's an accident, because then it's hard for, especially if you're going to put out on console, which I don't think you're going to because you're doing F4SE, but then if players accidentally get them into a position with the quest where they can't go forward, like that really sucks, because then by them just thinking they're playing along normally, they break the quest and they don't realize it maybe until it's too late. And that stuff you really got to watch out for, I think.
Yeah, there's just so many things. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine how many things there are that could break just one. I mean, you could script it as well as you can, add as many like sanity checks as you can, and somehow someone will find a way to break it.
Right. Well,
so
it sounds like another advantage to building the main quest to run without companions too, is that you can take care of a lot more of that, and then knowing that it operates on that, at that path, that at least when those are introduced, if for some reason they don't work within it, they'll at least not be there's a way for the player to complete things because you'll have done it without them originally.
Yes, yeah, and also a neat little side thing is if a companion doesn't work, we could always rewrite them as a quest character or something, and it just has a lot more detail.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think we did actually have to do that to one of our companions. I would have to triple check on that one because I don't know the actual status on it, but that is something that we had to deal with. But it's an extra advantage,
Yeah. Well, companions are brutal to write, especially like if you look into how much detail is actually in the companions in Fallout 4. Are you guys, because you said you're trying to reach the quality level of Bethesda, are you matching it with them as well? Are you looking, like when you get to companions, are you looking to reach the same or greater than level of interactivity and immersion with them, like where they're constantly commenting on everything, they interject in certain quest points, they have their own personal quests? Are you doing all of that stuff?
Yes and no for the actual interjection of conversations for the most part. Like you won't just have them randomly float by into a conversation
Okay.
unless the context actually makes sense. But other than that, yeah, we're trying to hit that mark. There are actually a few things that I was trying to figure out, some unused or maybe not implemented, or maybe they were scrapped functions relating to companion stuff.
Okay.
So we'll definitely have it. It's definitely there.
It's a lot. Like hats off to people like Llama who put in the crazy amount of work to do a companion properly, because they're very like crazy amounts of dialogue you've got to write and all the different triggers and everything. Like it's a pretty, like it can be for one person it could be like multiple years of work to get a good fully fleshed out companion going.
Yeah, it's genuinely insane. I mean, you have to make sure. No, it is, because it's like you have to make sure all the triggers are lined up correctly. You have to make sure that the events that fire them off are aligned correctly. You got to make sure of so many different things. Oh, and also if you have the robo voice version or if you have the voice acting version.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's a fun one.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I feel like there's no way in hell like mods like yours don't end up released with at least a couple of robo files in by accident, because there's so many lines of dialogue you're gonna end up with.
There better fucking not be, I swear.
We should, you know what? We should put our heads together and code a way to detect those robo files. There's got to be a way to like analyze, like maybe have them operate at like a slightly different bit rate to make sure you can detect them or something. Because that's something I constantly worry about. Like, am I gonna? And I know I've done it already to the beta testers a couple of times where I've accidentally left a couple of those in. It's like, I don't want those to go live. They're so jarring.
I'll actually have to think about that one. That might be pretty useful. Unless there's maybe some sort of flag in the creation kit that says, "Oh, this file is robo-voiced," or
yeah, I don't know,
something like that. I can maybe take a look into. That actually isn't too bad of an idea, nonetheless.
Yeah, it seems like it would be useful, because it would. Yeah, it would be. I've also made the mistake a couple of times where I put the. Have you done any quest work? Have you done the scene work for quests?
Yes, unfortunately, I have
So
a lot of it.
I've accidentally put the dialogue line on the wrong character's row, and then so
Oh,
oh that looks terrible. Or where I've mixed up the male. Well, this is one you won't have to deal with, but I've mixed up the male and female player voices occasionally. Whoops.
oh man, that's actually funny. Oh, but it's okay. One time, I don't know why I didn't notice this. I guess I had the scene links off, so you can't see which scene transitions into what.
Yeah.
I spent about 3 hours trying to figure out why this dialogue option wouldn't move to the next thing. And it turns out I didn't set the scene that it should go to.
Mm-hmm.
I set it so it goes to itself. And I spent 3 hours trying to just think like why are you doing this?
Yeah. That
Ridiculous.
That scene system, I'm actually like I'm falling in love with it because I'm learning how to do cooler and cooler stuff with it. But man, it took me months to feel even comfortable with it. It is not intuitive in any way.
It's a mix of it's actually quite simple to use in a way, but at the same time it's not too overjarring. And then the next thing is I just wish there were more features to go along with it.
Okay.
Like maybe if you could do like custom camera paths that aren't
Oh my
something
god, you're
hard
speaking my
coded or anything
language.
like that.
Oh, that's so obnoxious that they're hard coded. And like I've even tried. I don't know. Maybe you guys have solved this, but I've tried taking the vanilla one, like the vanilla NIF files that represent the camera movements, duplicating them, and setting up new camera things in the CK, and they just don't work. Even though they're exact same NIFs, like just renamed, and they don't work. It's ridiculous.
I heard that from somewhere. Yeah, that's one of the things I'm going to look at because what we currently have in the works is our own like creation kit extender. So that way we have like fixes for the how many files you can have essentially in one master file.
Oh yeah.
So basically doubles the limit again on that one because I think originally it was I don't know, it was something insane like 2 to the power of 20 or whatever, 1 to the power of 20.
Are you guys gonna
Originally,
I know the base game supports it's like 16 million records per plugin, but the CK has a limit itself where it can't load up everything. Like
yeah, it has what's called the handle limit, so which is different than the actual forms and whatnot. It's some outrageous number like 2 million, I think, in creation kit for Fallout 4. I would have to triple check that one.
okay,
I'm
but so
just
that's
throwing
become
a number out of my ass.
that's become a burden for you guys, I assume.
Yeah, we were actually stuck for a few months trying to figure out how to get past it because we have so many. Well, if you think about it, we have the DLC files, you have the basic game files, and then you have our files.
Right.
So it was an issue we were bound to run into, and we did run into it. It's solved now for the most part.
Yeah, and you don't even because you guys aren't doing like Miami where it's going to be another world space you visit with your character from the Commonwealth. Yours is like a new game essentially. You're doing more like Indario.
Yeah, it's completely new. Obviously, we use a lot of assets and whatnot
Right.
from Fallout 4, but
But yeah, you don't need them to
brand
be able
new.
to like go to Boston, so it doesn't. So all those things are just wasted records, effectively.
If you're able to go to Boston and ours,
Yeah.
I will be very surprised because that's not happening in our build.
Right. Well, that sounds like one of those things that people are gonna ask for immediately, of being like, all right, so when do we get Tale of Two Wastelands style? We want to be able to travel back to the Commonwealth.
Not from me ever. I'm not dealing with that mess. The creation kit takes a long time to load as it is.
Right. Oh God, yeah.
Imagine loading the master files and our file. Like, I'll give you a comparison. Hold on.
Okay.
I gotta find it. I have an old version bookmarked, actually. Hold on.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll give people some perspective. Like it can take about a minute and a half to 2 minutes just to load the Fallout 4 ESM. And then you add in the DLCs, and like if you add in all the DLCs, it probably triples that amount of time. So then if we add in a world space, so you're talking about double that. So like you're probably talking 7+ minutes, depending on your system quality, to load the creation kit, and which is a program that crashes regularly. Like, that would be maddening.
Oh, definitely. It's okay. That folder did not have.
So I
This
heard,
one
I heard a
does.
Windows error. That's not a good
Yes,
sign.
it's telling me. Okay, here we go. The Fallout 4 original ESM is about 300 megabytes.
Okay.
Ours without. Oh, wait, what? Oh, okay, never mind. Ours isn't so bad. I was looking at the wrong file. Oops, my bad. I was looking at the archive. Ours is 200 megabytes, but
Okay.
still,
That's
if
pretty
you're
impressive.
basically loading, you're basically loading like 2 full games into the editor, and it takes a long time. I have no idea how you get it to load in a minute or two with just Fallout ESM.
Yeah.
Mine takes like 7 minutes at least,
Oh man.
and then if we load our master file, it takes about an hour. I'm not even joking.
Oh my god, that's excruciating.
But we did have figure out a workaround for that. But yeah,
yeah, I don't know why mine opens faster, but maybe it's just because I spend all my money on memory all the time. Like every time I get a new computer, it's like max that memory out. What can we do for that? That's the only thing I can think of. But
yeah, that's so lucky. Oh man, I'm so jealous.
Oh man, an hour to load. That's not shocking. The creation kit gets a bad rap for a good reason. It's a pretty wonky piece of software. You can tell that it's been slowly upgraded over time with hot glue and duct tape, but it's what we've got. And I don't hate all of it. Like it's like I said, I've gotten used to the scene creation now in the quest system, and some of it makes sense, but other parts of it, I'm just like, I'm a web programmer, so to me, I'm like, give me a couple months, and I could rebuild this whole thing with like SQL, and it would just run like a dream.
Hell, give me the map file or PDB, and I'll do it myself. Don't even pay me. I'll do it. No time, please. I can't work in this thing. No, but yeah. But I just want to clarify. It doesn't take an hour to load our current ESM because of the workarounds that we have.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've got solutions to that now. Which now does
Yeah,
that include your override? Because I'm my bet is you did something like gutted the Fallout 4 ESM or something to make sure you could load with less records. But for your other workaround you were talking about of overriding the max things, are you guys doing like basically a hacked creation kit editor exe to change the limits?
Yeah, it's working. This is sort of a personal project of mine that I'm dealing with, and essentially nothing really works besides that one specific fix.
Okay.
It'll eventually get a public release, but for now, meh. It sort of rots in my computer and laughs at me because nothing works. Yeah.
So, well, fortunately, you've got access to community tools like Xedit too to handle a lot of the stuff that doesn't require world space editing.
No.
Oh, you guys can't use that?
We have a firm policy of no Xedit.
Really? Wow. Why is that?
Yep, 100%. Because what we do is we do version control in the creation kit itself.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, and the thing with Xedit is it doesn't fully save the files correct. Like it saves them fine. You can load them, edit them, whatever and however, but it doesn't save the version control information as accurately as I would have hoped. So if we have an ESP that's been edited in Xedit, then chances are there's going to be an issue at merge. I'm going to have to figure it out. I do not want to waste hours of my day trying to figure out why this plugin will not merge.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems that come from using Xedit with the creation kit.
Yeah,
version control. So
absolutely, I saw that on that was on Elminster's long to-do list, is to eventually get full support for version control with Xedit, so that's not such a problem anymore. Because version control is a real pain in the butt to do with this stuff. Like, this is something we don't have a good workflow for on my team of allowing multiple people to work on the main ESM. So it tends to be that I just tend to merge in everybody's work into into it manually, which is not the best workflow, and it's not great having me as the bottleneck, but that's what we were at. So it sounds like you guys have fully got the network version control that Bethesda offers working correctly, and it's working well for you.
Yeah, like 99% of it. There are obviously things that we can't really do. Like I had sort of a prototype version working where essentially you didn't need to worry about Git. You could just have one application running, and then people could connect from your creation kit to the version control server.
Okay.
So we have to use like a mix of Git and Perforce, or like the creation kit. But yeah, all in all, it all merges accurately, perfectly, does a lot of the bug checks and whatnot. So I can't really complain.
All right, so I would be scolded if I didn't ask you this, being that I've become the settlement guy. What is the Cascadia plan for settlements? Are you guys embracing that system, or are you ignoring it altogether, or is it something like TBD still?
What are settlements?
I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but I obviously I have to ask. So.
Oh no. Essentially, the actual answer of me trying to be funny, or sorry, instead of me trying to be funny, is not like Fallout 4. It's more or less it'll be completely optional. You don't have to worry about, oh no, I gotta go my settlement over in Shittown and make sure I get this weird teleporter thing ready.
Right. But you
Or
are
however
you
that
are
thing went
going
in Fallout 4.
you are going to have some though. I guess that's what I'm getting at. You're not.
Yes,
they're going to be.
we'll definitely have some.
Okay. So they are. So unlike like the Bethesda ones where, they were the big thing. I know that was a big problem people had, was they were claimed to be completely optional, and then it turns out one of the main quests requires one of them. So you're avoiding that, but you are going to have them available for people who like to build.
Yes, 100%, because that is one of the coolest things that Fallout 4 did, and obviously we want to keep the cool things and or all the great things, and essentially change the bad and the not so great ones.
Sure. So then I guess the next question is, are you guys keeping the existing workshop system so that all the mods out there, like some settlements and many other like workshop mods and stuff, will just work naturally with Cascadia?
That's a good question. I didn't really think about that one. There are definitely, actually, now that you made me think of it, I do probably have a solution for that. So yeah, don't worry about it. I'm sure all your mods will work just fine.
Just because I could
rely on some very specific things, should work right out of the box.
Awesome.
But if it doesn't, scream at me.
No, I was just curious if you guys had were thinking about rewriting the workshop system or something, because it's a little bit wonky. Like I've already rewritten it for Workshop Framework, because it's really unoptimized. It's a very poorly written system, but also it has its locked in mechanics, and obviously those have a lot to be desired. So I didn't know if you guys were considering overhauling those mechanics or something.
Well, for that specific example, I didn't actually think about that one, but for others, such as like crafting and whatnot, we'll obviously make the API to deal with that a lot more scripter friendly if people choose to.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't, whatever. No skin off my back, or however that saying goes. We'll definitely have any new features and whatnot will be more accessible than modding.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Whether everything works, time will tell on that one.
Sure.
But
the plan is, when you guys introduce new systems, you want to put as many hooks as you can think of that's reasonable to allow people to mod Cascadia after the fact.
100%, yes.
That's really
because cool. The way I look at it is, if I were trying to do something, what would I want?
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'd obviously want to deal with UI stuff, so let's add in a bunch of things that can let somebody who doesn't necessarily know how to deal with UI get something running.
Right.
Whereas in Fallout 4, oh, you want UI stuff?
GTFO.
Get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah, that is my big problem with, because like Fallout 4. I mean, as you've found exploring the animation system, one of the big changes that they made between Skyrim and Fallout 4 was how open they changed the animation system with all the subgraphs and stuff. Is that it's a lot easier to hook into the animation system, and that's like the one thing that they keep not putting in are ways for us to easily change the UI, which is a big problem in a modding scene, because it's like, yes, we can just alter the SWFs, no problem, but then we're instantly incompatible with anybody else who does, and then we end up in patch hell. I really hope, Tez 6 or Starfield or whatever their next game is has a UI framework, so that we can do some basic adjustments and on a level that's compatible across mods naturally.
Yeah, like I mean, those guys have it figured out for the most part, I think. I mean, just build your own UI engine. I don't know. Like, don't use Scale for,
Oh
please.
yeah, that's
Already close.
it's so frustrating. Every time I have to open up Flash, I'm like, oh, I hate this program so much, and it's mostly just because I don't know it. But I'm sure.
Let me elaborate what I was saying.
Okay.
Stop using closed source software, please, for the love of, like, just, I don't care how much more expensive it makes it. Just build it on your own. I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
dealing with all the closed source components that or middleware that they use has always been a nightmare from what I've read about.
Do you guys have people on your team who can handle all the work that does need to be done, or is it a struggle?
In regards
Like
to
Flash work,
specific department.
no, like doing Flash, like doing the UI,
Oh,
stuff, because that's what we're talking about.
yeah, that's actually we're always searching for people that know UI stuff and specifically want to work on it. Because as you can imagine, the people that do typically don't want to do it on their free time.
Right.
Especially with like something that's kind of hard to work in, like the Fallout 4 modding thing,
Mm-hmm.
like UI stuff is just, I mean, you would have to have somebody that would program your UI into the game itself and make sure all the clicky buttons work properly and that they respond with the correct information.
Yeah.
Typically, from what I can see, the people that do the animation stuff are the people that actually do the scripting or like the programming, like the back end stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to find those guys
Yeah.
and girls.
Well, and it's especially tough because it's kind of it's a software that's kind of going away. I mean, I know Scaleform is going to be a thing, but as far as finding people who are action script programmers who do work in Animate CC or whatever, like that's not a common thing. Like it's not a thing that gets used a lot in the real world anymore. So then you basically have to find old hands who just happen to know it from before. And you're not going to find college students who are learning that currently.
Yeah, and also another thing that's also kind of hard to deal with is you have to make sure that the art style for like the Pit Boys or like the Vault Boys
Right.
matches with the actual Vault Boys. It's like this is one of those things where I was saying earlier, I have this insane level of quality that we want to hit.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't feel right, I go back to the lead in charge and just say, like just the details, and I'm sure they hate me for it some days, but if it ends up being a better game in the end, I don't mind if a couple people get angry about it.
Right. Yeah, you got to hold yourself up to certain standards. Because it's very easy to go down the slippery slope of cutting corners.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, you could cut corners in so many, like it just takes one and then you keep doing it and doing it and doing it. But when you have like this huge world that you have to deal with, it's like you really, really have to take absolutely everything into consideration. It's nuts, quite simply.
So
It really is.
I don't doubt it. I do not envy the position you are in. So in regard to that, how maybe you don't want to answer this. What percent complete would you say you are if you had to, gun to your head, you had to answer?
I won't give you a percentage. I'll just say that we're closer than some might think.
Okay.
But not soon, but soon. You
Right,
know.
right, right. Soon relative in mod development terms.
I don't know about that one.
Like we're not going to
I'm
see
just gonna go
we're not going to see a
soon.
2019 release. We can say that effectively, right?
Oh, fuck no. I have no idea how that's gonna come up. If somebody figures that one out, please tell me. I have no idea.
Awesome. Yeah, because the projects are massive. When you're effectively building Fallout, you're effectively building Fallout 5 here, and so like we got to be patient with you guys. And not only that, you're doing it on virtually no budget, all volunteers. It's and you're battling someone else's engine. It's a challenge and a half.
Well, I don't know about battling it. It's like a fucking war that never ends, and it just keeps shooting out like random bits of errors and bugs. Well, okay, I'm being a little bit egregious. It's not that bad, but it can be pretty bad sometimes.
Well, like that running into that brick wall of the form limit in the CK, that had to be a kneecapper. Like you're going along fine, and all of a sudden it's like, guys, can you load the file anymore? I can't load the file anymore.
Well, the dumbest thing about it, the creation kit wouldn't even tell you that it hid an error.
Right.
It would just simply not let you add anything to the file. Nothing. No error. Just you hit create object, or you make a reference from an object. Where'd it go? Oh, maybe I have it hidden or something. Nope, it just doesn't exist.
That's scary. At least you guys got to figure it out finally. Albeit it was probably a hell of a couple of months while you're wondering what the hell you're going to do next. Because and I guess one of the benefits of when you get this far along, you're just like, well, I'm not giving up now. Like it's kind of in for a penny, in for a pound. Like you're all in now. So when you run into those problems, you're going to just keep smashing yourself against them until you solve them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the same time, I'm not gonna lie. There are days where I'm just like, you know what? I can't deal with this. I can't deal with this engine. I'm out. I'm done. But you know, as it's like there so many, like a lot of people have put so much time and effort into the project. I mean, it really doesn't feel right to really just abandon it or anything like that. So, you know, it's definitely nothing like vaporware or anything.
Right.
It's coming along.
Yeah.
Just
well, I think that
perhaps not as fast as it could be if we could hire people and whatnot.
Right. How big is the team, by the way? Like how many? I know they're always in flux. Like these big teams with these things, it's always like a floating number. There's people here and there, and there's always some number of people who aren't doing anything, even though they're technically on the team. Or there's some people who are pulling the lion's share. There are some people who are contributing from outside. But on average, what would you say the team size is for Cascadia?
So with team size, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I should know, but when it comes to contributors, I want to say, and this is me just shooting a number off really randomly. I would like to say maybe in the range of 150 to 200 people that have contributed to this project in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Um,
So that's that's probably over the lifetime, right? Like since it's
yes,
it was incepted
that's
till now.
over.
Yeah.
Well, if I had all of them working at once, oh my god.
Right, you'd be bigger than
I could get so much done. There we go. You know.
Well, I would if you had that many people active, I'd be like, how the hell do you manage them?
Hey, I tell me, I have no idea. But yeah, when it comes to current people, it really depends on the season, you know.
Sure.
I'm not even joking. Like we might have maybe like 50 people only just sort of doing small stuff here and there during like the winter.
Right.
Winter time gets pretty busy for a lot of people. We get less contribution then. But you know, I can't really say.
Sure.
Essentially is the short answer.
Right.
I have no idea.
A lot of people have had their hats in the ring at some point or another in this. So yeah, I could see why. Yeah, you're gonna want to. You'll buck it up on those bad days where you're feeling like screw this engine, and and that's what vacations are for, right? Like once in a while you just need to take a couple days off and come back at it fresh, so you don't.
I don't take vacation.
Oh.
How can I vacation? The like I can't. I can't.
It's better than quitting. I'll tell you that much.
I'd love to say yes, I just can't. I need this project finished before I go and move on to the next thing. It's just the way I roll.
Fair enough. I
Always has been. It sucks.
I
It is what it is.
I am with you on the like being obsessed with the project, and I got to keep moving until it's done. But I know myself well enough that on those days when I'm feeling like this engine hates me and did everything I did was a waste. Those are the days where I just like, you know what, I'm gonna take a day off. But I do like if I take like an actual vacation, like go away somewhere for 10 days. By about day 3, I'm like, I need to get back to my computer. I need to open the creation kit. I need to, or my regular work is like, I gotta code. I gotta get this done. So I'm definitely in the workaholic camp. But man, just taking a day off once in a while when you're feeling like melting down is, I think that's super useful, and I highly recommend it if you can find it in you.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely consider it. I mean, I definitely do take like a day to just do other programming stuff, but it's very rare that I have days where I just play games or, you know, usually I just spam in Twitch chat and whoever's channel,
Right.
just stupid Twitch memes. But yeah, other than that, I don't have any vacations or whatnot. It's pretty much just strict working on this project.
So it sounds like you're in the same boat as I talked about earlier of feeling like you've basically become a casual gamer now.
Oh, I wouldn't know. Oh, please, please.
When's the last
I
time you
just
got to have a serious gaming session, like where you're just like all in for weeks at a time, like grinding through an RPG or something?
well, yesterday, if I didn't have like 20 minutes of sleep the day before, I would probably still be playing Path of Exile. I mean,
Okay.
with the new content launch, I'd probably I don't know, maybe I'd be up for about like 27 hours now, just straight playing that. I
Okay.
mean,
So your
I can
solution
have
is you
my
gave up. You just
moments.
gave up sleep. I gotcha. I
I mean, there you go. That's my solution.
yeah.
It's like, okay, I won't take a vacation. I'll just stay up, and that way I can work and
Yeah.
entertain myself.
I joke about doing that, and a lot of people on my team think I don't sleep, but I definitely enjoy it. I gotta get at least 6 hours a night, or I am not functional. But Path of Exile, that's a good one you pointed out. That's actually Path of Exile is like my dream game to mimic their content release schedule. Like I know we don't have the resources to do it, but like that would be my aim of their quarterly big updates. Like I love the way that they've got this built. They like really have mastered the forever model of a game.
Yeah, it took them some time, but I feel like they're finally on like the right track. Because for the longest time it used to be like very very minor changes, and then they came with this idea of bringing like really huge new mechanics every league or season or however they call it,
Right.
and it's really cool. I mean, it doesn't have to change the like even with the older patches that they did, those changes weren't very huge, but it did affect the way you played the game.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, it added the longevity of it. Actually, there are a few things from Path of Exile I'm personally stealing, and I don't care if they send their lawyers at me. I'm taking those ideas.
Uh,
They're mine. Goddamn, like there are a few things here and there.
Oh, I think that's net. I mean, I don't think people send their lawyers after for that because it's every game does that. Like all games are built on cannibalizing the best ideas from each other, and so like we're slowly getting to a point where every game now seems to be trying to become just like ultimate game, where it's just got every possible mechanic baked into it in some form.
Yeah, the thing is with me, I'm not ashamed to admit when I take bits and pieces. Like I'll straight up say it. Like, yeah, that's good. It's mine now, but thank you. It's good. Like it's very good.
Yeah.
It's my idea now.
Well, the nice thing, I
But
mean, when you're
it's all
crossing
about
genre, though, you at least get to take credit of you morphed it into a form that works in this other genre.
yeah. That's actually what I was going to go into a little bit. Where it's not so much the idea itself; it's how you package everything together. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it could ruin the package, you know?
Yeah.
It's a tough one to balance out. In fact, I don't know if I'll ever figure it out because there's so many things. I mean, you know, if you take a look, this is like a very extreme example, but if you take a look at Fallout 4,
Mhm.
one of the big packages, or sorry, the big package, one of the things they threw in there, the voice acting player,
Mhm.
that's a thing that sets people off and essentially ruins the game for a fair amount of people. That's something I want to avoid,
Sure.
obviously, but yeah.
What will be interesting to see, like for example, if Bethesda decides to like roll that back, so say Fallout 5, does that turn off a number of new Fallout players? Like, are there a lot of people who started with Fallout 4 where they're like, no, I like the voice protagonist, that's my jam. Because I'm curious, I can't wait to play Cascadia just for the fact of like feeling, and in fact I'll probably do it before then, just with the silent protagonist mod to try it out. Is like, am I gonna miss it? And then what about people who saw that as their first Fallout experience? Are they gonna feel that that's a necessary part? And is that number of people greater than the number of people who are totally turned off by it? And does that matter?
I've actually thought of that, and I couldn't give you an answer. I really don't know. I mean, it's a really tough one. I mean, Fallout isn't really like this huge. Okay, what am I saying? That it sounds kind of dumb, but when it comes to more mainstream games, it's it errs on the side of being more of a niche. Obviously, Skyrim blows my argument out of the water, but it like there's not a whole lot of role playing games that are really well. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna stop with that. You know, I'm just. I know I'm contradicting myself. I know it's just.
Fallout. I know Fallout 4 was one of their better selling games. Like that's why they jumped into 76 immediately. Is because they're like, oh crap! Like there's a huge audience for Fallout. So like there was a huge number of players for Fallout 4 up front, and so that which to me that tells me that there were a lot of new players that came into it just for Fallout 4. That was their first time experiencing Fallout. Um, and but the number of players that continue to that continue to play it long after that is a much smaller number. And my bet would be that a large number of the players that are hardcore and that are gonna the type of people that will play Cascadia are probably in the camp of I'm not a fan of the voice protagonist.
Yeah, I imagine the people that are probably going to look into playing our game don't really care about the voice protagonist as much. So we're quite lucky on that front. But at the same time, those are either the hardcore fans or the hardcore I hate Fallout 4 fans or haters. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
that'll
know,
be interesting to see how that reception goes.
yeah, it will be. I have a feeling. I'm nervous about some communities playing our game. You know,
Yeah.
like oh boy, after seeing some of the critiques that Bethesda gets, which I mean, to be fair, there are things that obviously you can critique them on, but there are some things where it's just like I I would have made a bigger mistake than that. I mean,
Right,
holy shit,
right.
come on, like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
How's that so bad? What the fuck? Like, oh my god,
Yeah,
it's insane.
I feel you exactly. Like a lot of the stuff that people crap on Bethesda's games for, and even like the people who are negative toward Fallout 4, I'm like, I actually thought that was really impressive. And then the more I dive into the way their game is all set up, I'm actually really impressed with the way they did a lot of things. And then if you compare it to like New Vegas or Fallout 3, the jumps they made in systemizing the game are pretty staggering across the board. Like the whole power armor system, and like without getting into the arguments against like fusion cores or the fact that you get introduced into the game, but just like the mechanics of the way power armor works is super impressive. The way the bots are set up and like the object templates for creatures, it's super impressive how systemized this game engine is.
Yeah, I think that's something that kind of bugs me a little bit because it's it's like they did like a fantastic job of those things, and then it's like the little voice inside of me is like, just give me a little bit more access to tweak these things
Yeah.
and change them around, and I'll be happy. But you know, they did a lot of really amazing things with this engine. I think obviously there are some shortcomings, of course, but yeah, overall they've done quite a bit with Fallout 4 in terms of what I sort of expected. Um, yeah, I don't know.
It just seems to me like that it's way better engineered under the hood than you would think from the gameplay they put out in the base game, like the
Well,
where they didn't take advantage of enough of their own systems even.
well, 100%. I mean, people give shit to Papyrus, like the scripting engine of Fallout 4, but and Skyrim, I think. I don't mod Elder Scrolls. I haven't really played the Elder Scrolls. Maybe that's one day thing and I'll try, but
How did you resist?
that system, it, Papyrus is actually like it never crashes the game. It doesn't I've never seen it slow down the game from the logs I've seen and whatnot. Like it like out of all the things, Papyrus like works flawlessly for the most part. Maybe there's a couple bugs I don't know about, but
I will tell you, you can crash the game from it, but it's very hard to do.
oh well, then there you go. I don't
but
know what I'm
no,
talking
it's
about.
very. You're. I mean, I agree with you. It's a very stable language. It's very well written. It's surprisingly deep. Like you can do. Like I think like one of the few things that's missing is multiple inheritance, but you can kind of fake that, and like some of those things, arbitrary things like the array cap is really obnoxious, but again, you can work around it.
Yeah, you're right on that, but I'm more or less talking about like the actual underlying system, like the actual code that runs the scripts that we basically feed into it.
Right. The virtual machine is very impressive.
That's the word I was looking for. I wasn't gonna say I forgot or that's the word I was looking for, but that's exactly it. I swear my head's not where. Well, actually, no. I'm
I just
typically
slammed
like
three
this.
cups of coffee, so I'm just way ahead of you there. That's all
Oh,
right.
that I should have done that. I should have done that.
uh,
Meanwhile, I was just looking at some code. I don't want to look at it, so I don't know. I should have made coffee. Shit.
I feel like I'm chaining it anymore to keep up with all of the projects we got going on because I feel ya on that being obsessed of just like I don't want to start any new projects until I get this one wrapped up. And
Yeah, like right now, I'm so tempted to look at like the Xbox emulation scene. I'm like so tempted to like take a peek, but I already know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna get so focused into it. I'm just like, okay, I'll leave that on the side burner for now.
yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, I felt that way about virtual reality. Like I've had, like I bought one of the early pro kits, and I'm like, I'm gonna get into VR dev, and then it's just like, you know what? As soon as I open that box, like I'm gonna disappear, and I'm never gonna finish what I've got going. So I have to like tame myself.
Yeah. I mean, originally I've started modding to look for people to basically make my own game company with, like just people that, yeah, I'm gonna say it. I forgot what I was trying to say exactly.
But so
Shit.
you got into
Like
modding to find like-minded people to look into going into game development.
exactly, like to actually start making a game without, the whole mentality of I'm an idea person.
Oh, right.
I can't do everything else. Like I can't do anything, but here's my
Yeah,
idea,
right.
Um, unless you have like a barrel of money, like
Right. If
barrels
you're
of
an
it.
idea guy,
I
like
don't.
out anybody listening out there, if you are an idea guy, which you'll know you're an idea guy if you have an amazing idea for a game, but you have no skills that would help you develop that game, you are an idea man. If you want to be an idea man, you better come with a lot of money.
I had one of my members of my team call me an idea man. Fucking toxic. I'll tell you. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Oh,
well, we
idea man.
yeah, There's a weird thing. I haven't had to deal with it a ton, but I guess that's one of those things that burns out a lot of mod authors in other games, is like the idea men coming to them and demanding they make their idea, and it's like where you start to see like a toxic back and forth between some people and the fans because of the idea men.
What's up with that?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't. Maybe this is like because I haven't been in this realm of Bethesda modding or whatnot, but holy crap, like shit can get really toxic, or like there's some strange things out there. Like I've had people try to offer me money to do something for them, and it's like, dude, you got the tools, just I don't know, work on it whenever you feel like it.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like I can put my name on it or anything. I mean, shit, I don't know. I'm just weird like that, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. There are some. I tend to take the road of like, these are just passionate people who they see somebody able to do something that they really 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 want, but they don't know the path to get there, and or maybe they just don't have the time or don't believe in themselves enough to actually get there. So like I try to take it all with a grain of salt. It is really frustrating though when people post like when they lash out at you. Like that's tough to deal with, because it's like, I spend all this time making free things and you're gonna attack me. And like that, I can understand where the burnout comes from. I don't tend to mind when people throw me ideas and are like, hey, it'd be really, and they're nice about it. Like, hey, it'd be really awesome if you could make this thing. And then it's like, I can kindly tell them like, hey, I got enough projects of my own to work on, but maybe you could try it. That doesn't bother me, but I know there are some people that get really pissed about it.
Well, I can understand what you mean when people are just being toxic, but at the same time, no, sorry, not at the same time. I'm trying to switch it to a different line of thinking. I'll shut the fuck up about that. Like, but like with the toxic people, all I can really say is fuck them. Like, what am I supposed to do with you? Like, okay, you whining and the Discord, like, what am I supposed to do for you?
Yeah. Do you guys have a public?
Like,
do you guys have a public Discord?
We do. We do.
You like to live dangerously. I can't do it.
Well, it's okay. Anytime I post an announcement, these toxic fucks put clown. Every time, I swear to God, I'm gonna ban like all 40 of them next time.
Oh man.
No, there's 22, 18. I don't know. They're pretty funny. I think they get my sense of humor mostly. If they don't, oh well. But yeah, it's really interesting seeing other. I'm sorry, I talk it over you. It's just something I want to get my mind out on, because I never really talk about it that much. But some like I can see where people are coming from when they get irritated dealing with users and whatnot. Totally get it when it comes to like dealing with people that are being assholes. Then that's fine. You can be an asshole back, but it's really strange to see like this almost sense of entitlement or something, like bizarre, like the condescending tone absolutely everywhere. It's just fucking bizarre to me, because it's like, if somebody genuinely asks for help, it's like, okay, if I have some time, I'll take a look into it and get back to you. And it's not like a matter of if I want to or don't want to. I mean, I don't have to do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it comes from. I know that there's kind of a reputation in, I don't know about other game scenes, but in the Bethesda modding scene, of like a lot of the mod authors who've been around the block a bit, like they tend to just be irritable, not love talking to people.
I'm not gonna lie to you, 100%. I've never seen it. Well, okay. When I say this, I genuinely mean this. Typically, programmers are assholes. There you go. I'm sorry, it's the truth. I'm one myself quite a bit of the time, but yeah, it's like the Bethesda scene. Like, people are fucking angry all the time. It's bizarre.
Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I think it's a part of it. I think is like players are their whims are catered to by all the game companies, and so we're in this era where everybody's just used to having these games that have crazy amount of investment put into them to make sure they're well polished and stuff, and then having them make that transition over to mods, it's like mentally it doesn't work. Like it doesn't click for them that the people who built these mods are just probably like one dude in his free time, and like so then they rage because it's like, your thing broke my game, or it doesn't work the way I imagine it. It's like this isn't the AAA company you're used to screaming at on Twitter. This is like some guy pouring his heart into it. And so I think like I get how it could happen, and I see like how it got there. But I've been trying to approach it with understanding like that's their attitude of they're coming at this. Their sense of entitlement, I think, has come from being coddled by just the game companies. And like they probably haven't figured out yet that I'm just a guy behind a keyboard. So I try to, but I do at the same time have to like I don't go a-hole on them. Like I try not to retaliate, but I do have to maybe block them from commenting or just ignore it. Like some of my mod pages I won't even go to anymore if I start to see that stuff popping up too often, because it's just like that's like I'm just putting in my personal time. I can't deal with it, but I also don't try and engage, because I've seen like what you're saying. Like I've seen other people who just go angry, and you get this reputation for being a dick, and I don't want that either.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely different if they're actually being like complete assholes towards you, or if somebody who downloads your mod is being an asshole. Then it's like, well, what else can you do? Just say fuck them and walk away. Like, I mean, if your mod wrecks their save in some way, then chances are they're probably have like 500 mods running at once. It's probably not even yours. What am I going to do about it? I can't debug that for you. I don't want to.
Yeah.
My bad, I think, even though it's probably not my fault.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
But holy shit, they're like, I don't know. I mean, I find it's when it comes to Bethesda modding, holy shit. Like a lot of mod authors are just flat out toxic towards users. It's just like, oh man.
Yeah, and you can tell when it's coming when you read the description, because there'll be like a line right away that's
100%.
like, this is for me. Go F yourself if you don't like it. It's like, oh wow, okay, well they're setting the tone.
Holy shit! Yes, like you could see it. Like I have like an X-ray vision for this, even though I don't really download mods anymore, because it's like, okay, I'm making this game, woo.
Yeah.
But occasionally somebody in our team will be like, oh, maybe we should do something like this. I go look at the page, I look at the description, like not even 2 lines in. Do not let me know of any problems. And I'm just like, okay then.
Yeah.
Nope.
Right. Nope. So what can we expect from the mod page of Cascadia? Are you like, so I assume then you are in agreements
Here's
with
my
me.
Patreon.
Okay.
Here's my PayPal.
Oh yeah.
If you don't like it, go out of no. I actually don't know how it's gonna work. I think we're probably gonna have to talk with the site a bit and figure something out, because there's a couple issues with how we are possibly packaging our game. We obviously have to communicate with Bethesda, who are not so easy to get a hold of sometimes, and make sure everything works out in that way.
Right.
Because with the issue of the handle limit, obviously our work environment changes because we have to strip ESMs, or we have to change the creation kit itself and add functionality to it. We got to make sure that everything's kosher legally, because I'm not interested in getting to the front page of PC Gamer because Bethesda shut down our mod page or something like that.
Right.
It's just I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not interested in it. Make sure all that's okay, and then yeah.
I guess what I'm getting at is you are not going to be toxic to your users and are instead going to be. Are you guys going to have a plan for making sure you get like your
Oh
bugs
fuck
worked
them!
out
I'm
and
never
be?
working in modding again. Are you kidding? Oh, I'm gone, dude. I'm gone. I'm going flying to the Xbox. No, obviously, I'll be sticking around to make sure that bugs get fixed. Like that will pop up. I
Right.
know for a fact there will be. And after that, pretty much leave it to at that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really all there is to it.
Sure. Sure.
Fix bugs where I see them, where they're seen, and they're screamed at me for. Fix them,
Yeah.
maybe.
Now,
You know.
so one of the projects recently, one of the big, so these, I've had this conversation with a few people, and you obviously are a great person to have it with, of how often these monster projects for games tend to just disappear. Like they're so grandiose and epic and feature creepy that they tend to get stuck in development hell, and then we either never hear from them, or we suddenly hear from them out of nowhere. And one of them recently that pulled off that miracle of getting released was Project Brazil, turned into New California. One of they actually seem to have like post-launch content, which I thought was interesting. That they spent all that time, they developed this like epic quest line, and they're going back and adding more stuff. Do you guys have anything planned like that, or are you planning on just get this thing out, it's packaged up, it's done, it's ready to go right out of the gate, and then you're never going to touch it again other than fixing up problems?
The thing with it is, I'd love to do something like that, but when it comes to Fallout, I mean, it's not like a continuous world like it is with like an MMORPG.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you really have to figure out a way to get players back into it in order for them to sort of play it again.
Right.
I mean, typically when people play game, for a typical person, they don't actually finish a game that they buy, you know. They don't actually, you know, like they don't actually go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's like trying getting us to do an encore would have to take like a pretty big, I don't know, standing ovation or something ridiculous like that. I don't know. Chances are no.
Okay. No, it was just
There we go.
an interesting thing because like it's yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like getting people to come back into it. Like we're experimenting with it right now with our Conqueror storyline of releasing more every like once a month. We release more story content, and it's and I'm sure the number of like, we're getting a tiny fraction of the players coming back to play it. So it's been like a fun, interesting experiment to see how that goes. But it's with a mod of the scope of you're doing, like you're effectively building a new game, and obviously people love getting new DLC for those games. But the type of DLC people expect is massive. Like, I mean, just think about how long it would take to build something like Far Harbor. Like it's a monster project in itself.
Well, in all honesty, with if I oh sorry, I just got a message about something stupid. It erased my brain completely. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Basically, the idea that like
somebody...
if a project like yours, I think will probably is if it's going to be hitting all the marks that you're talking about and like going to be at the level of quality we expect from a Bethesda game, you're effectively giving us a Fallout 5 in a sense, and that I could see people would get excited about the idea of DLC for it. But I also think that the level of quality and scale people expect from DLC is monstrous. Is like the idea of going back and adding DLC to something like Cascadia, you're then, you're probably taking at least, maybe your development cycle ends up being 5 or 6 years or whatever, probably 2.5 to 3 years to build something even the size of like Far Harbor.
Maybe I'm tuning my team's horn a little bit. I probably am. But if we were focused on something, like Far Harbor isn't small. Like it's pretty big,
Yeah.
Of course, right? But if we were focused on a content more of that size,
Mm-hmm.
well, we'd probably be done already. Like that's how confident I am in our level designers and whatnot. But when it comes to the technical feature side of it, because we have such a big scope,
Mm-hmm.
we can obviously do all the grandiose features like reworking the skill and perk system and crafting, all the gameplay, bring back the old perks, skills, traits, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we were doing something like Far Harbor, I'm more than confident to say that we would 100% be done already. But with that being said, I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to be burnt out by the time we finish.
Sure.
And I highly doubt I would be able to get anyone really back because, it's hard enough to work on it currently, but to get asked to come back to work on it some more,
Yeah.
they're either masochistic or they really love Fallout.
Right. Well, I mean, you yourself, you're saying that there are days when you're just like, man, I need to get on to the next project. I'm sure a lot of people are feeling the same way of just like, can't wait till this is done so I can move on to this other thing I've been eyeing. I'm sure that's a common thing. So
It is. I mean, and we don't expect people to keep working on the project. Like, if somebody does like one or two things, that's perfectly okay.
sure.
We don't have like an expectation of you must work 24/7 or you must work 12 hours a week. You must
Right. Right.
anything like that.
But I'm sure any of the people that do
Um,
that alongside you, I'm sure you're very grateful to them.
um, yes, yes.
Because I mean that tends
There, there,
to
there are a
be
couple people that tell me that they're doing something,
yeah.
and I'm so excited because it's like, oh wow, they're doing it. I find out they didn't do it,
Oh.
and then it's like, oh my god, fuck, just tell me so I can get somebody else to do.
Yeah, that's a
It's
common. It's one of the struggles with managing the volunteer team. So I've been modding since I was a teenager, and it always tends to follow the same pattern. Is you have your lead person who's like super fired up, and they will put in every hour they have available, and you'll get you tend to have a small core that will put in maybe a little bit less time. And that they will tend to do the lion's share. And then you have a lot of other people that will commit to things, and then they may or may not ever deliver them. And then you have a few people that are kind of on the outside, and they'll do specific things. That's the pattern I seem to see. Is that are you seeing the same thing?
That's actually quite accurate. So the way I picture it is I exclude myself out of this picture. This is just my perception of the team. So my leads that I have, I don't want to say my leads, the leads of the project, that what the current expectation that I expect from them and is that they basically are great at what or they're good at what they're doing, but they're great at managing their specific departments. So it's basically this autonomous ball of I have no idea how it works out so well as it
Yeah.
does, but it does, and those are what I would call my core. Um, and then, of course, the people of the individual teams, they're absolute monsters in level design. I have no idea how they work as fast as they do. Absolutely insane. And the writing, like everyone on the team is just like so talented. But there's some people that just push out content after content after content, and I feel like that sort of tips the scales of people who really only contribute a couple of things in comparison to the people that are just like shotgunning or machine gunning content everywhere.
Yeah. And it's it's very fast. It's exciting to if you I don't know if you've ever done this, but we've started doing on our team is some people have started streaming while they're working, and the people who are special, like I'm not a specialist. I'm kind of a jack of all trades type of person. Like I'm a programmer in my job, but for this project, I do a little mix. I do some art. I do some programming. I do a little bit of everything. And when I watch people who are focused, who are specialists, like this person, like all they do is sound work, or all they do is writing, or all they do is quest implementation, and it's just like the speed they work at because they get so damn effective at it is insane and very impressive to watch.
Yeah, that's the thing that I can't handle watching those kinds of streams just because it makes me so mad. I can't do it. It's like, you know, like it genuinely pisses me off because it's like, oh, come on, I could have done. No, I can't do that. Holy shit! That like it genuinely like there are things that I wish I could master and I can't. So, like you say, jack of all trades. Well, jack of some trades, master of none for me. Like it's like I'm probably not even the best programmer on my team. I know for a fact I'm not.
Sure.
I'm definitely not the best artist. I'm definitely not the best writer, but it's like, actually, what am I doing as Project Lead? Holy
Why am
shit.
I on
I'm
this
probably not
team?
even the best one. I'm not even the best one on this team,
Well,
like that's how it is.
well, I think I can speak on behalf of the community that we all hope that your machine gunners continue to power through this and get this thing into fighting shape, because this is definitely like on the one of the most exciting mods to see, because it's those world space mods are so, they're rare that, well, I would say they're common that they get announced. It's rare that you see one that you have confidence is going to make it to the end, because like there's only a handful of projects in the Fallout 4 community where it looks like, you listen to the people talk, you look at the previews of work they've done, you look at the size and scope of their team, and it's like, okay, this group can pull it off. Because it's, we've seen from all the Bethesda games in the past that so many of them get announced and so few actually make it to the finish line. So your guys' project is one of the few I think is going to make it to the finish line. And after talking to you, it sounds like you guys are going to do it way sooner than we may expect.
Well, I'm glad you got that impression because I can tell you, me not even remembering the total balance of our world space sounds pretty fucking bad, like but yeah, we're definitely not one of those images of like I don't want to be like a bully or anything like that, but we're not Fallout. I don't know, maybe like New Australia or something, and then the picture they post is like an empty world space with like a little tree or
Right.
something. Like the work we're actually like a lot of people are putting a lot of time and work into this, and
Yeah.
we're definitely going to get it out in one way or another.
Yeah. Well, and like you're joking, the your brain farts in the podcast didn't shake my confidence, because most of what I see is you guys, like the fact that you guys have your main quest done, the fact that you've got beautiful worldscapes that you guys have already shown off, some of the creature animations and stuff, and I know that the skill and perk system, like the real hard part of that is done, which is the UI cracking, which Nyanka did. And so like you guys have the core pieces in place, so then it's like, it's really at that point, it's so you get past a tipping point where it's like so hard that, where you have people like you who are just like, there's no way I can let this die without running it to the finish line, where it's just like, like, and you have those people who are machine gunning out content. I have confidence because I've been in this position and I've seen this of like, once you get to that point, as long as you have a few people who are the producers who will produce rapid fire content, you guys will just barrel together and just power it out, because you're just like, guys, we've got the framework here, it's all ready to go, like let's just do this, let's run it to the finish line.
That's yeah, I can tell you it definitely there are people that are more and more people are starting to notice that with our team. Like like I said, I'm not spoiling release dates or anything, but there are a lot of people that are sort of realizing like, holy fuck, like this thing is actually happening. Like even myself, I when I go into the world space and whatnot, even though like none of the features work correctly or like the actual gameplay works, like the actual combat and whatnot, um like it's a game being built and it's actually like happening.
Right.
I mean, it's insane. Every week when we do our merges, it's like chunk by chunk is getting filled out, and it's actually happening. It's insane.
That's awesome. All right, man. Well, before we break, is there anything else you want to say to the fans and people waiting with bated breath for Cascadia?
Yeah, if any of them are in my Discord, could you stop posting reactions of the fucking clown. I swear to God, I'm gonna destroy you.
All right, man. It's been awesome talking with you. I wish you luck in all the rest of
Yeah,
your development.
yeah. Yes, you too. Quite fun. I'd be happy to come back on one day, maybe.
Right on. Yeah, we can
If
we can
you,
do it. We can
if
do
you,
a
if you like
post-mortem
my
after
stuffed
you release.
interview or something, there you go.
Awesome.